Om Satchidananda Rupaya Vishvotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadyasya yatonvayaditaratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yatsurayaha Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Kaitavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayonmulanam Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Kim Va Parerishwaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudyate Trakritibihi Shushrushubistatchanat. For a minute, we invoke toughness and evoke hope, particularly if there's the wrong election result. Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls. Did you like my election comment? I believe I've shared with all of you that our older son Vyasa has shifted from half days to full days. He just started. And his new teachers, very thoughtfully took photographs of their classroom and laid out the schedule of the day, almost like a virtual presentation. Because we're not allowed in the school. Parents are not allowed in the school. So we got to see what he does, the toys he plays with. And following that, the teacher had written, if there's more that you want to know or you want to discuss, we can have a phone call. I felt that to be quite professional, meaningful. You know that I visualize our community as a school. We have weekly classes. We have morning assembly, correct? It's called Meaningful Mornings. So today, we're going to have a student-teacher conference. Not a parent-teacher conference. Don't mix up what I said. A student-teacher conference. because this is our 8th class of the year. Now we're in our 3rd month of this year already. More than a conference, this will be like a tour. See, my life was lived in Niagara Falls, so I'm used to being a tour guide. So I'm going to take you on a tour now of the last 7 classes. After each stop, you can ask questions. You need to be oriented towards the flow of Bhagavatam. Otherwise, the transformation that Bhagavatam can offer will not manifest. Okay? The first stop, our first class. The theme, the vision of Srimad Bhagavatam is surrender. For us to surrender to Bhagavan, and Bhagavan will help us to surrender to Brahman, that is our self, the divine, the infinite, happiness. To be able to surrender is easy to say, extremely difficult to practice. Which is why Skanda 3, 4, and 5, the focus is on belief. To nurture belief in Bhagavan, in Brahman. Skanda 6, 7, 8, presuming we have belief, to nurture this to faith. We believe lots of people, but we don't have faith in all, correct? There's a closeness with faith. And Skandas 9, 10, and 11, we are in 10, is to encourage trust. We have faith in lots of people, but we don't trust lots of people. Anyone who's experienced team building exercises, one of them is a trust fall, correct? You hold your hands like this and you allow yourself to fall backwards and people are supposed to catch you. See how that trust in the people around you allows you to surrender your weight to their hands. This is stop number 1. Any questions from anyone? Any clarification needed? We have 8 stops, okay? And we have plenty of time. If you need more, virtually put your hand up. I'm continuing to stop 2. And these stops are not mutually exclusive. They're all integrated. In class 2, I shared with you, avatara means avatarati, which means to manifest, not to descend. That is an English definition. The philosophical definition is to manifest. Brahman, Brahman manifests as Bhagavan when there is maximum compromise. When the world has minimum compromise, then a sadhus can reconcile and fix that. Imagine a few people in this home were not well in a light way, then our medicine cabinet perhaps can treat that. But if lots of people in this home were seriously sick, our medicine cabinet cannot help. We need a physician. We need a medical system to help us. If there's minimum compromise, that's called asatya, sadhu. If there's maximum compromise, again, asatya, Bhagavan needs to manifest, correct? Greater severity, greater authority is needed. Any questions? Any clarifications? This is our student-teacher conference. You can ask freely. stop 3, class 3. Bhagavan Krishna manifests. I read to all of you the details of his birth. Bhagavan Krishna first manifested in Vasudeva's mind. And he nurtured Bhagavan's presence in his mind and then evoked that same presence into Devaki. As I've been sharing with all of you, if you invoke toughness, what will you naturally do? Evoke hope. Yesterday I spoke at a meeting for API, Wisconsin. API means American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin, Wisconsin, on being certain in uncertain times. And this was quite meaningful. During our dialogue, one of the questions was to me about my routine. They said, what do you do on the weekend? And they were waiting for me to say I sleep in, go out for drinks, watch Bollywood movies. And I shared with them, my wife and I, we prepare for the weekend like it's not 2 days, but 4 days. The intensity of the weekends are much more significant. And what I try to do is remember Helen Keller. That my senses, my body is working efficiently enough, but that's not the case with Helen Keller, but she never gave up. And when I remember her, then I become stronger. So I again share with all of you, a great service you can provide to society is be tough. And now more philosophically, I've shared with you many times, grace is when you have the thought, I need to change. So where does grace manifest? In your mind, correct? Just like Bhagavan being in Vasudeva's mind. And he nurtured that, so this went into Devaki's body. In other words, grace manifests as guidance if you nurture it. Your thoughts become your actions if you nurture that. And undoubtedly, Sri Vasudeva and Sri Devaki did, which is why they gave birth to Bhagavan Krishna, or joy. You can ask questions, clarifications. I'm checking in with Akila from Seattle. Akila, you can unmute yourself.
Hari Om, Vivekji. I just missed a word. Vivekji said a minimum asatya, sadhus can take care of it. Maximum also I heard asatya.
Yeah, correct. So I'm going to mute you first. In both cases, I use the word asatya. Asatya, which means the opposite of satya, means to compromise. Compromise. In Meaningful Mornings, I told you satya is non-compromising. If I'm a person who compromises and I come across someone who is uncompromising, that person would be a sadhu, correct? That presence can change me. But if there's maximum, as in society, humanity is engaged in compromising, a sadhu cannot correct that, only Bhagavan can. I'm moving over to Janani, who's connecting to us from Detroit, the Detroit area, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So Vivekji just mentioned how the greatest service is to be tough. I recently started being in the whole like healthcare field as a provider, and being tough is a challenge. I was wondering what Vivekji's thoughts were on mental health in terms of like the medical realm, like what about usage of antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications? Because I'm realizing I'm prescribing that pretty frequently these days.
Understood. Janani wants more clarification on what it means to be tough, specifically for those who are experiencing mental health issues, such as anxiety and depression. When I use the word toughness, I clearly don't mean that in a limited way, like muscles. I don't mean in terms of attitude, like look how I'm a tough guy. I don't cry and I don't talk to my wife and stuff like that. I don't mean it like that. The toughness I'm referring to are deep virtues like resilience, titiksha, which is endurance, and most of all, happiness. One who is happy becomes immune to all stress, all anxiety, all depression. Correct? Those are antonyms. If I am Sat Chit Ananda, nothing can touch me. This is the toughness I'm referring to. If I told you next week that I have, leukemia, all of you would sympathize with me, I think. If I told all of you next week that I am experiencing anxiety, you all wouldn't sympathize with me. Our community, and I don't mean us specifically, but those of Indian origin, we tend to stigmatize those who are experiencing mental health matters. There's lots of medical health providers in our community right now. Do you agree? You do agree. That has to change. Just like there's physical illnesses, there's mental illnesses too. If I have leukemia, I meet a surgeon or an oncologist or both. And if I'm experiencing mental health matters, then I also need professional help. Professional help through a psychiatrist, through a psychologist, pharmacology, etc. Only when the brain is relatively balanced can Vichara or Vedanta work. No different than right now, if you're physically famished, here I am talking about Avatara, and all you're thinking about is your fridge. Yes, I can see it in your eyes. Or if you make this more subtle, if you just got into an intense argument with your child, and here again, I'm talking about Bhagavan Krishna being born, and all you're thinking about is where did they go? I hope we can have a discussion to come to terms with each other, correct? So professional help is needed for those who are trying to work with anxiety and depression. Okay? For someone who has not been clinically diagnosed with anxiety and depression, positivity is a fine preventative medicine. I'm going to Dingar, then I'm going to go back to questions, okay? We have more stops. We're only going to stop on day 3. Dingar, go ahead.
Hari Om, Vivekji.
Dingar's from Chicago. How are you?
When you talked about toughness and resilience, and also you said that, Vivekji said that grace is when you have the thought to make a change, right? So making a change is difficult. But, working through to making, first thinking that I need to change is the first step. And, so we started doing that, right? What I'm understanding is how do I deal with, my child is being diagnosed with autism. So now we are going through that challenge of dealing with it that we didn't have with our first 2 children. And, this is, we are having that journey of how do we deal with this change and how do we be resilient in these kind of situations.
Yeah, understood, Dingar. What a great school we have. How open all of you are. I hope you listened to Meaningful Mornings this morning. You got to hear Shobhaji. She's joining us. You got to hear Neha. So much openness. Now you got to hear Dingar. I'm going to answer your question more generally and then specifically. More generally, the 4 pursuits in life, and let me pause here in case you didn't catch Dingar's question. He has the thought to change. Now, Bhagwan has given him, his wife, his daughters a particular challenge with a child who has autism. So how do you continue with this thought, I need to change, with such a challenge? Grace is the thought, I need to change. Everyone's registered that? Obviously, that change means for the better. If you are steady with this thought, I need to change, I need to change, I need to change, this will solidify into guidance. Guidance. See, a lot of us have this thought, I need to change, but we don't know how, correct? The manifestation of how you should change, the presence of a guide in your life, is that grace that has gone from, subtle to gross, as in it's become more real. But that's only possible if you keep steady with, I need to change. Next. There's only one pursuit in life, and that is moksha, or evolution, final evolution. Dharma means education. Artha means profession. Kama means relation or relations. In every one of these, what should be the thread that connects these? Evolution. If you are in a profession where you're not evolving, that means you've broken away from purpose. One of you, I think it was Sunita from Stanford, had asked a question about a promotion, and I said, take the promotion that will help your evolution. If it's not going to help your evolution, don't take the promotion then. So that thread has to be there, which now comes to the specific answer. Only special parents are gifted with special children. And why they're gifted with special children is for their sadhana to be focused on their child. It's like, you know how much I travel. And for the last 9 months, I haven't traveled anywhere. This has allowed me to focus more on my physical health, seeing my boys grow up, Sheila and I hanging out more, organizing my notes. I've been gifted to focus more, correct? I don't have so many things to keep in my bandwidth. Yes? So for you too, your sadhana is, Bhagwan is acknowledging you're a special parent, Pavitraji is a special parent, and you've been gifted with a special child. You be steady and sincere with that. Period. You don't need to do anything else. Okay? Stop 4. In our 4th class, I gave insights into how much, and this is also related to Dinkar's question, how much sacrifice Sri Vasudeva went through to see his wife being abused by her brother, physically, verbally, threatened with death, not even death, murder. How much sacrifice Sri Devaki went through. Vasudeva would have seen it, but she was experiencing it, yes? 7 murders for the sake of the 8th child. And what this really represents is Yajno Ve Vishnuhu. Yajno Ve Vishnuhu. This is a term from the Upanishads which says Bhagwan Vishnu is Yajna. Is Yajna. And you all know what word should come to your mind when you hear or read Yajna. Please share with me in the chat. What word? Dedication. Very good. And you all know this, exactly. You're not sticking to the English translation. You're thinking about the implied translation, dedication. If there's dedication, there will be sacrifice, correct? But you won't even know that sacrifice because you're so immersed in that dedication. And Bhagavan Krishna's parents are icons of that. And now you'll see more of that in Sri Nanda, Sri Yashoda, completely dedicated to Bhagavan Krishna. And what that feels like is joy. That is Bhagavan Krishna. To be able to dedicate, one has to be trained in titiksha, which one of you also wrote. Titiksha means endurance. Those who are weak in endurance are weak in dedication. They will only think about, look how much I'm sacrificing. There's no joy in that. I'm going to Rupa and Suhasini, and then we'll go to stop 5. Rupa, your question? If it's not working for you, we're going to go to Suhasini. Okay, Rupa, go.
Thank you for unmuting. Yeah, Vivekji, my question is along the lines of mental toughness. So we are fortunate. We have you as our guide, and we have this wonderful community. But how do we teach toughness and resilience to those who are not a part of this?
Yeah.
My child is a teen. This period has been very, very difficult for them. And when I try to give them advice, they're like, that's not practical. Like, how do I put that in practice? So I'm not able to. What do I do? I feel so helpless.
Yeah, got it. I'm muting you. And I wasn't ignoring you. I was just checking to see if Pravina is in class. Pravina was in our silence retreat last week, I'm sorry. And when we all debriefed at 5 o'clock, she was telling me, she was telling all of us, I have 2 teenagers at home. I'm always in silence. They never talk to me. It was so funny the way, and so confidently she said it. They just don't talk to me. So I'm always in Mona. The 3 ways to encourage resilience is exercise, examples, and ethics. Exercise, examples, and ethics. Exercise is obvious. If you breathe fresh air and you're in the sun, that's good for your body and brain. Examples. I referenced Helen Keller, correct? For our young adults, I was referencing Swami Chinmaya and Sri Ramana, how their bodily illnesses did not touch them. And here is the point to you, Rupa. If you keep on invoking toughness and leading yourself, not leading by example, but remember, your boys are watching you, your children are watching you anyways. That example will be a great message to them. And for all of the parents in our community, and those who are not parents, this is still relevant. You're like a farmer planting seeds, and you just don't know when that seed will grow, correct? I know this because Sheila is a fine example of that. Sheila, my wife. In her home in Toronto, every room was used for Balavihar. When she was in high school, she started drifting from Chinmaya mission. In university, was anti-Chinmaya mission. Until Grace came into her life and brought her back. And my point here is that she already had that seed. That's all. I may have been a time catalyst, but that seed was already in her personality, which is why I've been sitting here since 6 a.m., meeting with Cleveland, meaningful mornings, discourse with Ann Arbor, now with all of you. Because she's tending to all of that. So, as parents, you are farmers and you've offered this seed of resilience. Focus on your effort and not the result. Yes, Bhagavad Gita? The third way to develop resilience is ethics. Ethics. When one has a relationship with self-development, like all of you do, you just naturally are tougher. So Rupa, you sharing in a subtle and meaningful way with your kids ideas on self-development. It's not sit in Bhagavatam class, but a quote, an example of LeBron James, how he is engaged in self-development. That will be a fine way to encourage them to be resilient during this tough time. Okay? And remember, we do not control anyone, especially as someone gets older. Suhasini, you're next.
Hari Om Vivekji.
Hariom. And Rupa's from Stanford, Suhasini's from Washington, D.C. Go ahead.
I was recently reading my notes from summer and I came across what I had written. It says, don't do what you do as an exchange. When there is an exchange, more vasanas are created. Does exchange here really mean expectation? Because we also say we need to substitute our vasanas. So if you could clarify substitution and exchange. Thank you.
Yes. Suhasini's question is in terms of if you have this exchange mentality, it's called vanik buddhi. Then your vasana, what happens then? So what happens is your vasanas are not evolving. They're simply being replaced by another vasana, an equally dangerous vasana or a more dangerous one. It's like I'm trading in one gun for another gun. Understood? It's not a gun for a knife. If I have a knife that's less dangerous than a gun in this example, but trading in a gun for a gun is equally dangerous. When you have that expectation. But if I have the expectation, I'm doing this for purity of mind or evolution, that's still an expectation, but now I'm trading in the gun for a spatula. You can still hit someone with a spatula and yourself, but it won't hurt as much. Correct? It's still a vasana. And then finally, even that expectation has to drop, that I'm doing what I'm doing out of gratitude for Bhagwan. Okay? From Vanik Buddhi to Dasi Buddhi, that I am a servant of the Master. Class 5. In class 5, we began seeing how Bhagwan is bringing out the worst in us, that is the asuras. And the first asura is Putana. Putana is the symbol for ignorance or avidya. And after that was Shakata. Shakata is the symbol for materialism. When one forgets they are happiness, then what do? They get distracted and look around. Distracted, look around, that's materialism. So how do you destroy these asuras? How did Bhagwan Krishna destroy Putana? By holding on to her tightly, correct? Holding on to her breast tightly specifically. When we hold on to Bhagwan, what that really means in our day-to-day affairs is remembering Bhagwan. When you wash the dishes, remember Bhagwan. Our older son Vyasa, he loves to play in the tub, but he doesn't like to get his head wet. I think Sheila's teaching him in the wrong way. So what I've been guiding him to do is, you take that bucket and you put it on your head and you say, Om Namah Shivaya. So now he's doing that, right? He's getting physically cleaned and mentally cleaned. So hold on to Bhagwan by remembering Bhagwan in all that you do. And when I say all, I mean literally all that you do. Like even bathing, brushing your teeth. Shakata, materialism, he is destroyed by Bhagwan Krishna being placed above him, correct? Bhagwan Krishna lowered Shakata, and Bhagwan Krishna essentially was put above, like Sri Vasudeva carrying Bhagwan Krishna, correct? So for us, what that means is, all of the materials that you have, use them. If you're using your materials, that means you're not distracted, isn't it? You're not going to look around. If you're using your materials, you're happy. If anything else is given to you, you'll give it away then. Yes? In the conference yesterday, I was talking about shopping rage. When one is emotionally imbalanced, what do people do? Shop. And do they buy that which is useful? No. So one of the physicians said it's called retail therapy. They really needed me to speak to them yesterday. If they're justifying that as therapy, retail therapy. I'm going to Ranjit. Ranjit, you're in Stamford also, correct? You can unmute yourself. I think you're in Stamford or Fairfield.
Yes, Vivekji, I'm in Fairfield, Chinmaya Saraswati Center, and
Yes.
Hari Om to you
Hari
and everybody. Just a quick question, if you don't mind. Can you please share your weekend routine with us? You touched upon it briefly, but I don't think you explained. I'm kind of curious to know, like how do your weekends shape out?
Sure, Ranjit. I will share with you in time, Ranjit. I want to make sure I get to all the stops because that's more detailed. In general, I sleep at 11:30 and get up at 4:30. And from 4:30 to essentially 6:30, I study. Bhajagovindam discourse, a meaningful mornings before that, Vedanta and Bhagavata. And in between all of this, I tend to some administration. Then my teachings tend to be in the morning, whether it's the parenting workshop or the Devi workshop. Next week, we have a camp for Chinmaya Mission Buffalo. Then in the afternoon, like today, I finish at 1. I'll go downstairs and deal with Trina Varta, who regularly visits our lower floor. There's regularly in a day. I don't mean in a week. I mean in a day. So I'm the tidier in our home because I need a tidy external environment to help me to focus on my internal environment and eat. Then I put Vyasa to bed and I'll get ready with more administration or more studying or exercising. Then Vyasa is awake again, Trinavarta, we fight, Trinavarta again, sometimes category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on hunger. And then we put him to bed again, and then Shuka to bed. And then in the evening, I'm teaching a class or getting ready for a class. And then after the class, I study the class again or prepare for the next day. So generally that's how it goes. And Sheila and I will hang out for an hour in the evenings, and that's suffice because she says I distract her. So she can work harder when I'm more engaged too. If you need more details later. Class 6 was Trinavarta. Trinavarta is the symbol for desire. Whenever we have a desire, this desire comes as a storm, blinds us, like Trinavarta did for those living in Gokula. Yes? So how do we reconcile this desire? The way Bhagavan Krishna held on to desire tight enough for desire to go away. The words I used with all of you was desire, desirelessness. That's very much in terms with Bhagavad Gita. In a more relative way, desire development. If you desire self-development, I'm going to tell you 2 amazing changes that will happen in your life. Number 1, you will meet your best friend. Your best friend is your own mind. For those who don't get to visit their relatives in India so often, or the other way around, when you see a 4-year-old who's now become 8, and they're more independent, more dexterous, it makes you feel quite happy, right? You've grown up so much, etc. When you work on your mind and watch your mind grow, that is the best feeling. A mind that is evolving is your best friend. You do not need other friends then. For our young adults in Ann Arbor, I told all of you, first, revolve around noble people. More independent than that is revolve around noble words, as in books like Bhagavatam. And more independent than that is revolve around noble thoughts, your own mind. And when your mind becomes sufficiently quiet, who will you find living there? Bhagavan Krishna, your best friend forever. See, I'm not calling your mind your BFF because your mind eventually will be enlightened. You will not have a mind. But Bhagavan Krishna is your best friend forever. I mean that in a very technical way too. That's how we do away with Trinavarta. Any questions on this tour? Class 7, stop 7. Bhagavan Krishna's Namakarana. Rishi Garga describes Bhagavan Krishna as Krishnata. Krishnata means dark, and in another commentary, Karshanat, the one who attracts. So the one who is dark, the one who attracts. These mean the same. Darkness here is symbolic for being imperceptible. You cannot perceive faith, correct? Can you lick faith? Can you hear faith? It's imperceivable. It is only felt. The infinite is imperceivable by the mind or the intellect or the ego, but it's most attractive. Happiness is the most attractive virtue, yes? That's why his name is Karshanat. So what a beautiful etymology of why Bhagavan's name is Krishna. Further in that class, we really began his leelas, his naughtiness. And some of the highlights are his playing of tug of war with cows. See, that's not animal cruelty because he lived with them. He loved them. If I go pull on a cow's tail right now, I'll get arrested. Correct? But he's at one with all of those animals, his tug of war. How those gopis that were not in sync with him, he would pinch their kids. He would make rude comments back to them. Like recently, Vyasa said, go away, Appa. And I stopped and said, what did you just say? Clearly he didn't hear it from, maybe Sheila, but no, he didn't hear it from anyone at home. But it's a rude remark, right? What did you just say? So he would say that to Bhagavan Krishna. And I told you about his excretia, right? He would pee and poo in the yards of those gopis. So naughty, but you laugh. You want to know more about these leelas. Bhagavan Krishna and Bhagavan Krishna's katha is transcendental. Transcendental. Whatever opinions you have, whatever conditions you're going to put on Bhagavan Krishna and his katha is wrong, is not applicable. This is a leela. How do you know that you're tuned into this leela? Our raga, that is our attachment to articles, beings, and circumstances, the A's, B's, and C's, we develop a viraga for them. Viraga means an independence from them. But that's only possible if you're holding on to something that's better or the best, that is anuraga or love for Bhagavan. And to reiterate this once more in the language of Swami Tejomayananda, the 10th canto is described as Ashraya. Ashraya is the focus of this 10th section. We have to know all has emerged from Bhagavan, exists in Bhagavan, and will end with Bhagavan. The beginning, the middle, and end is with Bhagavan. In the language of bhakti, all belongs to Bhagavan. All belongs to Bhagavan, including you. Ashraya means, another meaning for Ashraya is surrender. You belong to Bhagavan. When you know that, you don't have to renounce anything. If you belong to Bhagavan, doesn't all that you belong, all belongs to you, belong to Bhagavan too? Yes. With such a bhava, it's not that all exists, all emerges, exists, and ends with Bhagavan. All is Bhagavan then. From the language of jnana, all belongs to Bhagavan. From the language of bhakti, all is Bhagavan. That is the completion of surrender. That is the fulfillment of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is our 7th stop. Today's our 8th. Any questions, particularly the Nemas? You had a question. Dinkar, I think I've answered your question. Any questions in any direction? I'm going to Amarjyoti in California. Amarjyoti, you can unmute yourself. If you can find her yet, then please do so.
Hari Om, Vivekji.
Hari Om.
I was very happy to hear you are up from 11. I mean, you're sleep. Amazing. So I have from 10 to 4 at least from now on.
Yes.
Anyhow, you said even while washing dishes, think of Bhagavan. That is, I mean, even when I'm cooking for kids and everything, I think of him, but still I cannot comprehend that. Can you explain, please?
Yes. I'm muting Amarjyoti ji. Her question is, when she's cooking, she's thinking about her kids, now her grandkids. She doesn't care about her kids that much. I know it's her grandkids. And I had shared when you're doing the dishes, think about Bhagavan, but how do you practice that? I don't think Amarjyoti ji's perspective is in terms of orthodoxy. You're not mentioning this in terms of orthodoxy, that you shouldn't think of Bhagavan when you're touching something dirty. You're not thinking about that, correct? Okay, good. I'll share more about this in future classes, but remember when Kamsa gave the first child back to Devaki? Who came after that? Rishi Narada came back, correct? And said, "You fool." I love this word fool. It's such an Indian word, fool. You don't know which child is the 8th child. You don't know which one is going to be your murderer. Why did he do that? It's like Rishi Narada, just for fun, is antagonizing people. You know, I'm looking around and I see Ramya Deshpande. Ramya, you know, Asha Basham really doesn't like you. Right? And I'm supposed to laugh because of that. It's because Kamsa was not afraid enough of Bhagavan Krishna. So he thought of him sometimes, but didn't think of him sometimes. But after Rishi Narada antagonized him or instigated him or provoked him, all he thought about was Bhagavan Krishna. And it is that intensity by which Kamsa was enlightened. So for us, you know, if I asked you to wash the dishes in 9 minutes, I think all of you will think of Bhagavan. But will you do it again at 9 p.m.? You won't, because that intensity has not been developed enough. Why is that intensity not developed enough? Because we don't know the details of Bhagavan enough, which I am trying to do. I'm trying to do. Because the more you know of Bhagavan, the more you will love Bhagavan. And whatever you love, whoever you love, you're always thinking about that, right? In our home, one of the shows that Vyasa watches is Blippi. And there's a Halloween episode. And it's this useless song that keeps on going, I love Halloween, Halloween. In the morning, I wake up to that. I'm ashamed at myself for doing japa of this Halloween song. but I'm happy that I'm able to catch myself. But do you get my point? Is that dussanga is so powerful. Satsanga is even more powerful. That intensity should be with you all the time. I'm moving over to the Kajams. Harita and Ashok, go ahead. Joining us from Portland. Yes, go.
Hari Om Vivekji. First of all, the word fool is also used by Americans in our elections here. So, setting that apart from that, my question is significance of Lord Krishna's birth during the night time, and also Surya Vamsha versus Chandra Vamsha. We were reading in our study session on this Friday, and one way to think is protect himself from Kamsa, not Lord. And is there another significance beyond?
Yeah. So the Kajam's question, Ashokji's question, is in terms of really differences between Bhagavan Rama and Bhagavan Krishna in technical terms. So briefly, Bhagavan Rama is born in the Surya Vamsha, that is the family assigned to the sun. And that's why he was born at 12 p.m. when the sun is most prominent. And Bhagavan Krishna was born to the Chandra Vamsha, the family associated with the moon, and he was born at 12 a.m. when the moon is most prominent. Now, the more subtle reasoning for this, Bhagavan Rama was born as Manava, as a human, like you and I. Humans are awake during the day. Should be awake, everyone, during the day, like right now. You got an extra hour of sleep this morning. And he set the example of being the master over humans. You think of Ayodhya, you think of the animals. Okay, Bhagavan Krishna did not manifest as Manava. He manifested as Ishvara, Bhagwan. And Bhagwan is the master of Maya. Bhagavan Rama is the master of us. Bhagavan Krishna is the master of Maya. And Maya is strongest between that 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. period, correct? The tamasic part. And this is why Yoga Maya was born with him, essentially. So this is to showcase that separation, okay? And that's why so much of what he does, we just can't understand, just like Maya. We can understand more about Bhagavan Rama, but we can't understand more about Bhagavan Krishna, which is why his teachings are more important. Everyone, please interpret this correctly. Everything else you can misinterpret, but this you interpret correctly. We are to follow Bhagavan Krishna's words and Bhagavan Rama's actions because they're being offered from different perspectives. This is the order. Bhagavan Rama's actions, because we learn more through our eyes and we learn less through our ears. That is Bhagavan Krishna's words, because Bhagavan came as Bhagavan. And we cannot be like that right now. Eventually, yes, but not right now. And another technicality in all of this is Bhagavan Krishna was born on the 9th and Bhagavan Rama was born on the 9th and Bhagavan Krishna was born on the 8th, correct? Navami, Ashtami. So 9 is a symbol for wholeness or Purna. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 2 plus 7 is 9. Everything is the same. Bhagavan Krishna, who is working Maya, 1 times 8 is 8. 2 times 8 is 16. 1 plus 6 is 7. 3 times 8, 24. 2 plus 4 is 6. It's decreasing, correct? So the more presence of Bhagavan Krishna there is, the less presence of Maya there is. Okay? Dinkar, I'll take your question next week. I know I can see the smile on your face. You've been filled with enough content for today. How many of you tried? First of all, how was the student-teacher conference? Was it needed, this conference? I think so. So maybe we'll do this every second month. After we complete 2 months, we'll have a conference. We'll go on tour again. How many of you tried your raw from last week? Your reflection adventure of the week? See Sunita, the Nemas. This is Deepavali, everyone. Vijayadashami is when Ravana is defeated. And essentially, 3 weeks later, Bhagavan Rama comes to Ayodhya. That is Deepavali. There's no electricity in Bharat back then. Sometimes now there isn't either. So it's very important to see where Bhagavan Rama is. So all of you, please keep doing this. From Lanka to Ayodhya, track Bhagavan Rama in whatever way you feel is most powerful. Your raw for this morning, for this week, like our silence retreaters, they experienced 50 hours of silence. I want you to practice an hour of silence a day. Sleep doesn't count. Vivekji, we do 10 hours of Mona a day. 50 hours? We do that easily. 1 intentional hour of Mona. That means no reading, no writing, no rituals. The same rules that our silence retreaters had for you too. Finally, announcements. Our November calendar is posted on our Chinmaya Mission Niagara website. So do note all that's happening this month, including our Deepavali banquet. And exactly 1 month from today, we have the Happiness Series 4. The Happiness Series is December 1 through 4. It is 4 evenings. This year's focus is on cheerful relating with an emphasis on parenting, our emotions, our integrity, etc. So save that days and times. Everyone come closer. I like to do that with Vyasa. I bring him closer and sort of to scare them, but then I just give him a big hug. So all of you come closer and smile. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be happiness.